Welcome to Walk Me to Sleep. Tonight, we walk the Via Dolorosa, the way of grief, through the ancient heart of Jerusalem's old city. The stones beneath your feet have been worn smooth by centuries of pilgrims, and the air carries the cool mineral scent of walls that have stood for 2,000 years. Settle in, breathe slowly, and let the old city carry you. Stone underfoot. That is the first thing, the uneven limestone beneath your shoes, worn smooth by centuries of feet that came before yours. The Via Dolorosa begins here, in the Muslim quarter of Jerusalem's old city, where the morning is still cool and the last vendors are pulling their shutters down or folding cloth over their stalls. The lane is narrow, the walls rise on both sides, pale and ancient, the color of dry sand and old bone. You walk slowly. There is no other way to walk here. A guide named David moves ahead, a man who says again and again that he is following Jesus' footsteps, not as a tourist, as a mission. He speaks of 14 stations along this road, the Via Dolorosa, the way of grief, each one marking a moment from the final walk, the judgment, the falls, the meeting with his mother, a stranger stepping forward to help carry the cross. 14 stops between condemnation and burial. You are walking the same path now. A single figure pauses at a worn stone marker set into the wall, head bowed, lips moving almost imperceptibly. You cannot tell if they are praying or simply reading the inscription. You do not disturb them. The air is cool and mineral. The smell of old stone, of walls that have absorbed 2,000 years of weather and breath and incense. A faint drift of something warmer, wood smoke perhaps, from deeper in the quarter. You catch a murmur nearby, a voice, low, directed at no one in particular, or perhaps at the stones themselves. Sliha, ani, hapish et hatahana hariyashvona. Excuse me, I am looking for the first station. The words dissolve into the lane. No one answers. The stones say nothing. And then, just for a moment, there is a shape near the far archway, a figure leaning slightly forward, as though bearing something across its shoulders. The shadow of the arch falls across it, and then it is gone. Just the wall, just the stone. You keep walking. A few steps more and the passageway opens before you. A long corridor of pale limestone, sunlight cutting across it at a low angle, throwing the far wall into warm gold, while the near side stays cool and shadowed. The stone underfoot is old. A guide mentioned a floor that may date to the 3rd or 4th century, and you can believe it. The surface is worn in the middle, where feet have passed for generations, raised at the edges where no one walks. This stretch of the Via Dolorosa runs through what is now the Muslim quarter. Bab al-Hutta nearby, King Faisal Street just ahead. The neighborhood is lived in, not a museum. On one of the buildings, you notice decorative tilework marking the home of someone who made the Hajj, the pilgrimage to Mecca. The tradition is that a man who completes the Hajj earns the title Hajj before his name, and his house is marked to show it. So this street holds 2 pilgrimages at once, layered on top of each other, neither cancelling the other out. The Franciscans began formalizing the 14 stations in the 14th century, adding stories that were well known here, even if they don't appear in the Gospels. The route you're walking now is the one that settled into common use, not the only version that ever existed, but the one that held. John's Gospel puts it plainly, and he bearing his cross went forth into a place called the place of a skull, which is called in the Hebrew Golgotha. One sentence. The rest, the falls, the encounters, the faces, accumulated slowly over centuries of devotion. The light shifts as you move deeper into the passage. A doorway on your left stands open, and from inside comes the faint sound of a radio, a voice speaking in Arabic, too low to make out words. A plastic chair sits just outside the threshold. A pair of sandals, ordinary things. You look down at the floor again. 3rd or 4th century, the guide said. Earlier layers still beneath that. You are walking on top of walking, on top of more walking. The stone is cool through the soles of your shoes. The air in the passageway is a few degrees cooler than the street behind you. That particular chill of old stone that has never quite warmed through. The passage bends left just ahead. The sunlight waits there, pooled on the far wall like something spilled. Around the next bend, the lane narrows. The walls press a little closer, and the light shifts. Less open sky, more shadow and warm stone. Mid-morning in the old city, and the air is already carrying heat. the kind that rises from limestone that has been absorbing sun for centuries. You slow down without quite deciding to. One hand drifts to the wall beside you, and the stone is rough under your fingertips, not cold, not warm, just solid. There is a worn place in the surface, a shallow depression at about shoulder height, where the texture is smoother than the rest, whether it was made by hands over decades or centuries or something else entirely, you cannot say. You let your palm rest there for a moment. This stretch of the Via Dolorosa, the Way of Suffering, runs through what was once the northern quarter of ancient Jerusalem. The Antonia fortress stood somewhere near here, or close enough that tradition has held the memory in place. The first and second stations of the cross are just ahead, built by the Franciscans who have kept watch over this route since the 1400s. The original ground is deeper, buried under centuries of city, but the path remains. For just a moment, something shifts in the quality of the light. A figure barely there, one knee grazing the stone, a hand reaching for the wall at the same worn place yours just touched. Then it is gone. Just the lane again, just the sound of your own footsteps, and further along, a door closing. A child's voice carries from an upper window. A few words in Arabic, then silence. The school nearby is already open. Life moves through these streets the way it always has, layered over and around whatever happened here 2,000 years ago, indifferent and ordinary and continuous. You keep walking. The stone underfoot is uneven, worn smooth in the center of the path where feet have always fallen. The walls on either side are close enough that you could touch both at once if you stretched your arms out. You don't. You just walk, one hand still trailing the limestone, feeling the grain of it pass under your fingers. Stepping through the doorway, the light changes, cooler. The stone walls hold the midday heat at a distance, and for a moment you just stand still and let your eyes adjust. This is the chapel of the Condemnation, one of the early stations along the Via Dolorosa, built on ground the Franciscans have tended for centuries. The altar ahead is modest, lit by candles whose flames barely move in the still air. On the walls around you, the story is told in carved relief and painted tile. Barabbas, the man released in place of another. Pontius Pilate, turning away, hands outstretched in that familiar gesture of refusal. And there, directly in front of you, the figure of Jesus, standing in the moment just before the sentence is carried out. The name Barabbas, in Aramaic, means son of the Father. Bar, son. Abba, Father. It is the kind of detail that lodges in the mind and stays there. You are alone in here, completely alone. The city outside is already hot. You can feel it pressing at the doorway behind you. But in here, the air is still and faintly mineral, the smell of old stone and melted wax. A single candle has been left near the base of the altar, burned low, its wax pooled and hardened into a small white mound. Someone left it here and walked on. You look at the image of Pilate on the wall, hands raised, face turned slightly aside. The gesture is so familiar it has become almost abstract, a symbol more than a scene. But here, in the half-light of this small chapel, it reads differently. Just a man trying to step back from something he could not stop. The figure of Jesus stands opposite him on the wall, very still. The artist has given him a quality of quiet that is hard to name. Not resignation exactly, not defiance. Something between the two. You stay a little longer than you planned. The candle flame dips once, then steadies. Outside, somewhere down the lane, a door closes with a soft echo. The stone floor is worn smooth at the center. The path of 10,000 visitors, 10,000 pilgrims, all standing in roughly the same spot, looking at roughly the same wall. You are one more. Leaving the chapel behind, warm amber light spills from a doorway just ahead. A low arch cut into the stone, the interior dim beyond the threshold. You stop without quite deciding to. The lane is quiet here. A few pilgrims have passed, their footsteps fading around a bend, and now it is just you and the soft glow pooling on the worn limestone at your feet. At the edge of the doorway, there is the suggestion of a figure, a woman standing still, pressing a folded cloth gently to her face. She is not weeping. Her expression is something quieter than grief, something that has moved past the first shock of sorrow into a kind of steady, aching attention. You are not sure if she is a pilgrim or something older than that. The candlelight shifts and the impression softens. From inside, a voice, barely above a breath. Beata Veronica, It could be a prayer. It could be the hiss of a candle flame finding a draught. You are not entirely sure which. The scent of beeswax drifts outward into the lane, mixed with old incense, the kind that has soaked into stone over decades, maybe centuries. It is not unpleasant. It is the smell of accumulated devotion, of the same prayers said in the same place by different mouths across a very long time. The tradition of Veronica, the woman who stepped forward to wipe the face of Jesus as he carried the cross, is not recorded in the Gospels. It lives in the devotional memory of the church, passed down through the stations of the cross, repeated in chapels like this one across the world. Whether it happened or not, people have been stopping here, at this spot, for centuries. That much is certain. Archaeologists have found that some of the paving here dates not to the time of Jesus, but to the Roman city of Aelia Capitolina, built over Jerusalem in the 2nd century. The past is layered here, one era pressed down on top of another, and you are standing on all of it at once. The amber light in the doorway flickers once. The figure, if she was ever there, is gone. The cloth, the folded cloth. You are not sure what you saw. The candle steadies itself, the lane is still. The path widens at a corner where the stone walls pull back just enough to let you breathe. To your right, a low arch marks what is known as the entrance to the Antonia, the fortress that once stood at the edge of the Temple Mount, where Roman soldiers kept watch over the city below. The guide's voice from earlier is still in your head. 12 stairs, he said, leading up to the Antonia. 12 stairs that Saint Helena, the mother of the Emperor Constantine, had carried all the way to Rome in the 4th century, believing them to be the very steps Jesus climbed before Pilate. Whether she was right, no one can say for certain. But the stairs are gone from here, and the space where they stood is just stone and shadow now. Across from the arch, a building belonging to the Sisters of Notre Dame rises quietly, pale stone, arched windows, the kind of place that keeps its own hours. And just ahead, spanning the lane above you, is the Ecce Homo arch, a Roman arch, broad and worn, built in the 2nd century as part of the triumphal gateway to Aelia Capitolina, the city the Romans built over the ruins of Jerusalem. Tradition has placed it here, at the spot where Pilate presented Jesus to the crowd. Ecce Homo, behold the man. You stand under it for a moment. The stone overhead is close enough that you could reach up and touch it. It is cool and slightly rough, the kind of surface that holds the cold long after the day's warmth has faded. Somewhere in the Gospel of Luke, there is a plain, almost matter-of-fact line, and as they led him away, they laid hold upon one Simon, a Cyrenian, coming out of the country, and on him they laid the cross, that he might bear it after Jesus. A stranger, pressed into service, coming out of the country, just arriving perhaps, not knowing what he was walking into. You think about that, a man who had no part in any of it, suddenly carrying the weight of it anyway. The arch above you is solid and indifferent. A cat moves along the base of the wall to your left, pauses, then disappears into a gap between two stones. The lane is quiet. Further up, a door closes with a soft, definitive sound. You keep walking. The light has changed. The stones of the lane, pale limestone, worn smooth at the center, where feet have passed for centuries, are holding the last of the afternoon sun inside them, glowing amber from within, rather than reflecting it back. The walls on either side rise close, and the air between them is still. You move slowly. The road ahead leads toward the 3rd and 4th stations, though some of the chapels along the way may be closed at this hour. It doesn't matter. The walk itself is the thing. Flush into the wall to your right, almost at shoulder height, is a worn iron cross, small, dark with age. The stone around it is slightly discolored, as though many hands have rested there over many years. This is the 5th station, the place where, tradition holds, a stranger from Cyrene was pressed into service, made to carry the cross the rest of the way. A man from out of town, pulled from the crowd. You stop, and for just a moment, the kind of moment that happens in old places, in low light, there seems to be a second shape beside the pilgrim ahead of you, broad-shouldered, leaning forward under a weight. Then the lane is empty again, just stone and shadow and the faint echo of your own footsteps. You hear something, or imagine you do. A voice, very soft, almost tender. Shimvon McVraney, Simon, of Cyrene. As though greeting someone long known, the iron cross catches the last of the amber light. You reach out and let your fingers rest against the stone beside it, cool, slightly rough, solid. The wall has been here a long time. It will be here long after the light fades. Further down the lane, a door closes. The sound carries cleanly in the still air, then quiet again. A few paces on, the lane opens slightly, and you find yourself before a grand stone entrance. Two arched doorways set into a wall that has been standing in some form since the 2nd century. The stonework is pale and worn, the kind of pale that comes from centuries of hands and weather and time. A round plaque with a number is set into the wall near the floor, the way they mark the stations along this route. A small image beside it, added more recently, showing what tradition says happened at this spot. These are the 3rd and 4th stations together. The 3rd is where Jesus fell for the first time under the weight of the cross. The 4th is where, according to tradition, his mother was standing. She is not mentioned here in any scripture, but the guide's words from earlier stay with you, that a mother would be next to her child every inch of a path like this, that she would try to protect him until the last moment. The 3rd station belongs to the Armenian Catholic Church. The 4th is just beside it. Both doorways are quiet now, dusk settling into the stone around them. A single lantern burns in a niche above the left arch, its light small and steady. You stand still for a moment. The street is nearly empty. A door closes somewhere behind you. The sound echoes briefly and then is gone. And then, just at the edge of the lamplight, a figure, a woman standing very close to the wall, her face turned slightly away. She is not moving. She is simply there, the way a shadow is there, the way grief is there, present without announcing itself. You look again and the lane is empty. Only the lantern, burning. The stone beneath your feet is the same pale limestone as the walls, smooth in the center where feet have worn it down over centuries. Rougher at the edges, you take one step, then another. The air is cool and still. Turning deeper into the quarter, the lane narrows. The last of the daylight has gone from the upper walls, and what remains is the soft, uneven glow of small electric lanterns strung between the buildings, and lower down, the occasional flicker of a votive candle set into a stone niche. The flames barely move. The air is still. You are somewhere between the 5th and 6th stations now. The 5th is where a man from Cyrene, passing through Jerusalem that day, was pulled from the crowd and made to carry the cross the rest of the way. Much of what you see here dates to the time of the Passion, or close to it. What was destroyed was rebuilt in the 19th century. What was not destroyed is still here, underfoot, in the walls, in the worn curve of the stone threshold you just stepped over. The 6th station belongs to Veronica. The story goes that she was standing outside her door when she saw him passing, and she stepped forward and pressed a cloth to his face. When she went back inside, his face was printed on it. The station is small, set into the wall of the lane. A candle burns in front of it. Someone left it recently. The wax is still soft. You stop. At the edge of the lamplight, just where the alley bends, there are figures, 3, maybe 4, women standing close together, their shoulders nearly touching. They are not moving. They are not weeping loudly. They simply stand, faces turned slightly downward, the way people stand when they have been standing a long time and have no intention of leaving. And then, from the cool air between the walls, a phrase drifts through, Old Greek, worn smooth as the limestone, Mekleet epime, weep not for me. The women do not look up. The candle in the niche holds its flame. A door somewhere above closes softly, and the sound travels down through the stone and fades. You keep walking. Further along, the walls press in close on both sides. Pale limestone, worn smooth at shoulder height, where hands have brushed against them for centuries. A single lamp hangs from an iron bracket above, casting a warm circle of light that barely reaches the ground. Beyond it, the passage bends and disappears into shadow. This is the 7th station of the cross, the place where, tradition holds, Jesus fell for the 2nd time. A small Franciscan chapel is set into the wall, its door framed in dark wood, a carved cross above the lintel. The stone around it is darker, as though the air here has been breathed by too many people over too many years. Something important about this spot, in the time of the Passion, this was already outside the city gate. The Judgment Gate, the Jannat Gate as some scholars call it, stood somewhere near here. To walk through it was to leave the city behind. The Church of the Holy Sepulchre, which most Christians believe marks the place of the crucifixion, the burial, and the resurrection, lies just ahead. It was built outside the walls. That detail matters. It is one of the reasons so many people trust the location. You stand still for a moment. The lamp above flickers. Not dramatically, just a small tremor in the light, the way a candle does when someone passes. The stone underfoot is uneven, worn into a shallow groove by the weight of footsteps across 2,000 years. You can feel the dip of it through your shoes. A door opens and closes somewhere in the dark ahead. A brief smell of incense drifts out, cedar and something sweeter, and then it is gone. The passage is quiet again. Just the lamp, just the stone, just the faint sound of your own breathing in the cool night air. The lane opens here, just slightly, just enough to see a strip of sky above the roofline. A pale moon sits above the stone, casting a thin, silver light down the walls. In a courtyard to your left, an olive tree grows from a crack in the masonry, roots finding purchase in what seems like nothing at all, branches reaching up past the parapet. You stop. There is a low stone step nearby, and the pilgrim you have been following is sitting on it still. Not praying aloud, just sitting. The kind of stillness that comes after a long walk, or after something has settled in the chest that words cannot quite reach. This is the 8th station of the cross, marked by a small stone set into the wall, carved with the Greek letters that spell out Christos Nika, meaning Christ conquers. It is easy to miss. A cross etched into the stone, a few letters, and then the wall continues as it always has. Words from the Gospel of Luke come to mind. Spoken on this very road, or one very much like it, a crowd of women following, weeping, and Jesus turning to them, "Daughters of Jerusalem, weep not for me, but weep for yourselves and for your children." Not a rebuke, something more like a warning given with care. In the soft light, you almost see them, the women at the edge of the road, faces turned, and the figure moving through them, pausing, looking back. The image holds for a moment and then dissolves into the stone and the moonlight and the ordinary quiet of the lane. A lantern hangs from a bracket above a doorway, iron, old, the glass slightly clouded. Its flame is steady, no wind here. The walls are close enough on both sides that the air barely moves. The pilgrim on the step has not moved. One hand rests on the stone beside them. The olive tree above the courtyard wall shifts, just the faintest sound of leaves. Then, at the edge of what you can see, a shape, arms outstretched, head tilted to one side, being lowered by hands that move slowly, carefully, the stone receiving what the stone was always going to receive. The image is soft, almost like something remembered rather than seen. You stand in the lane. The moon is still there above the roofline. The lantern burns. The olive tree is quiet now. The smell reaches you before anything else. A thread of incense, faint and resinous, drifting from somewhere in the stone. You are near the church of the Holy Sepulchre now. Not at the great door yet, but close enough that the air has changed. There is something older in it here. Cool and mineral, the way deep stone always smells, but layered with centuries of candle smoke and cedar and something sweet you cannot quite name. The church itself is among the oldest in the world. St. Helena came here in the 4th century and built it. This and the Church of the Nativity in Bethlehem and the Paternoster Church on the Mount of Olives, all raised in the same era, all still standing. What you are walking toward has been a place of pilgrimage for 1,700 years. The entrance you can see now is not the original. The old entrance was larger, grander. The 4th century church was enormous by the standards of its time. What remains is smaller, worn down by centuries of use and repair, and the slow pressure of the city growing up around it. The stone of the threshold is polished smooth. You can imagine how many feet have crossed it. The church belongs to no single tradition. Catholic, Greek Orthodox, Armenian, Coptic, Ethiopian, Syrian, each community holds its portion of the building, its own altar, its own hours of prayer. The incense you are smelling could be from any of them. It does not matter. It all rises the same way. You stand still for a moment. The stone under your hand is cool and slightly rough, the mortar between the blocks worn to a soft edge. From deep inside, a low chant begins. Or maybe it is only the memory of one, the building holding the sound of every prayer ever spoken within it. A figure drifts at the edge of your vision, soft, barely there. A woman with a cloth, moving with the careful deliberateness of someone who has done this before. Veronica, the tradition calls her. She pressed the cloth to a face on this road. The image remained. Whether it happened exactly this way, no one can say, but the story has been told here for so long that it has worn grooves in the stone, the way water does. The incense thins, the air settles, you breathe it in, dust and wax and something ancient, and you stay a little longer than you planned. A narrow stair brings you up and out, and suddenly the city falls away below you. The roof of the Church of the Holy Sepulchre opens around you. Not a roof in the ordinary sense, but a courtyard in the sky, a place where the building breathes. This is Deir el-Sultan, the Ethiopian monastery that sits above the Greek Orthodox chapel below. A few tourists are here, but most visitors never find their way up. The ones who do tend to go quiet. Small dome cells line the edges, modest, whitewashed, inhabited. The Ethiopian community has lived here for centuries, on this unlikely perch above one of the holiest sites on earth. And then there is the olive tree. It stands in the open air, its trunk thick and gnarled, its branches carrying small dark fruit. The Ethiopians hold that this is the place where Abraham was prepared to sacrifice Isaac, that the story which began here was completed, in a sense, by what happened in the church below. The tree is old enough that you don't question it. You just look at it for a moment. A woman is seated just outside the great door at the far end of the courtyard. She is very still. Her posture is the posture of someone who has been sitting for a long time and does not plan to move. A single candle burns at her feet, its flame barely moving in the night air. You don't know how long she has been here. You catch a few words, barely above silence. Yihai Ratzvon, may it be his will. The oldest kind of prayer in the oldest kind of city. Somewhere in the back of your mind, a line surfaces from the Gospel of John, chapter 19, verse 25. Now there stood by the cross of Jesus, his mother, and his mother's sister, Mary, the wife of Cleophas, and Mary Magdalene, 4 women, standing, not fleeing, just standing. The olive tree stirs, though there is no wind you can feel. The construction nearby, mostly above the Greek Orthodox section, is quiet at this hour. Scaffolding and pale stone, almost finished, or at least closer than it was. A guide's voice from earlier comes back to you. One day it will be ready. The candle at the woman's feet is still burning. The olive fruit hangs heavy on the branches. The night is cool and very still. A short descent brings you back down through the monastery and out into the open air. And then you are facing it. 2 lanterns hang above the entrance to the Ethiopian churches, small, warm points of light against the stone facade. You duck your head to pass through the low doorway, just as you were warned to. The ceiling drops suddenly, and the darkness inside takes a moment to settle into shapes. The first church is quiet. On the wall ahead, a painting catches the lantern light. The Queen of Sheba visiting King Solomon, the figures rendered in deep ochres and reds, their faces calm and formal. The colors have faded at the edges, but the scene holds its dignity. You pause, letting your eyes adjust. The air in here is cooler than outside, and carries something faintly sweet. Old wood, perhaps, or the residue of incense burned earlier in the day. The floor is uneven underfoot. You move carefully. Through the second church, and out the other side, the courtyard opens, and there it is. The facade of the Church of the Holy Sepulchre rises before you. 2 arched doorways, one sealed for centuries, one still open. The stone is pale and worn, the surface marked by the hands of pilgrims across 1,000 years. Lanterns glow at the entrance, casting a low, amber light across the threshold. This is the place that holds, according to Christian tradition, both the site of the crucifixion and the tomb, Golgotha and the burial chamber, enclosed together under one roof since the 4th century. The building has been destroyed and rebuilt, damaged and restored. What stands now is layered. Crusader arches, Byzantine foundations, Ottoman repairs. It does not look like one thing, it looks like time. A few figures move near the entrance, pilgrims, or perhaps monks finishing their evening rounds. No one speaks above a murmur. Someone adjusts a candle in a holder near the door. The flame steadies. You stop just short of the threshold and look up at the facade. The stone is pale gold in the lantern light. The open doorway is dark beyond the first few feet. From deep within, very faint, comes the low sound of chanting. Or maybe it is just old stone settling, the way it does at night. You cross the threshold and the city disappears behind you. The darkness inside is different from the darkness of the street, cooler, stiller. The stone here has absorbed so many centuries of breath and candlelight that the air itself feels dense, not heavy, just full. You are inside the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, and the space opens around you in ways that are hard to measure in the dark. Above you, the Catholicon, the domed rotunda, shared between the Greek Orthodox and Catholic communities, rises into shadow. The cut stonework of the arches is precise, deliberate, each carved edge catching the nearest candle flame and holding it for a moment before letting it go. Ahead, at the heart of the rotunda, stands the Edicule, the small chapel built directly over the tomb. It is a structure within a structure, a low, ornate building of pale stone and gilded columns, surrounded by hanging lamps that burn in long rows, their light pooling on the floor around it. The lamps are oil mostly, some are gold, some are silver. They have been burning here in one form or another for a very long time. You go still. The ghostly figures that seem to trail the walk, the man with the cross, the women, the soldiers, they are gone now. There is only the stone and the candles and the faint, sweet residue of incense that has settled into every surface. From somewhere deeper in the church, past the Armenian chapel, past the low corridors that branch off into other chapels, other altars, a voice rises, low, unhurried, almost without beginning or end. Kyrie Ellison, Kyrie Ellison, Lord have mercy, Lord have mercy. A monk, unseen, chanting in the dark. Golgotha is just up a short stair to the right. Near the entrance, the stone of anointing, where pilgrims kneel and press their hands flat against the cool surface. The guide mentioned Abraham and Isaac earlier, the idea that this hill carries the same weight across different stories, different centuries. It is a strange thought to hold. You let it drift. A single candle has been left at the base of the Edicule by someone who has already gone. It burns very steadily. No draught reaches it here. The chanting continues, soft and even, filling the space without crowding it. Candlelight catches the edge of a stone arch above you, and for a moment that is all there is. The flicker, the arch, the dark beyond it. The crucifixion site is behind you now, ahead, the tomb itself. A small chapel built over the place where, tradition holds, the body of Jesus was laid. The Edicule, a low, ornate structure of dark stone and gilded lanterns at the heart of the rotunda. Pilgrims have been coming to this exact spot for 1700 years. People around you are blessing objects they have brought from home. Small crosses, rosaries, folded papers, pressing them to the stone. The stone that, they believe, Jesus touched. It is a simple act. There is nothing theatrical about it, just hands and stone and something private passing between them. A few monks move through the space in dark robes, unhurried. One carries a taper. The candle flame bends as he passes, then straightens. To your left, an Armenian chapel opens off the main corridor. A doorway, a glow, the low sound of something being chanted. You don't go in. You stand at the threshold for a moment and listen. The words from Luke drift to mind, words spoken at the very end, on the cross, before everything went still. Father, into thy hands I commend my spirit. 6 words. The whole weight of it in 6 words. The tomb was once a cave cut into rock. That is how burial worked then, for those who could afford it. The cave is gone now, enclosed in centuries of stone and marble and devotion. But the idea of it remains, a hollow in the earth, a sealed door, a darkness that did not last. You stand near the entrance to the Edicule and feel the cool air coming from inside. The candles along the outer wall have burned low, their wax pooled and hardened in small ridges. Someone has left a single white flower at the base of one of the lanterns. It is already wilting at the edges. The walk is done now. The stones are behind you. All that worn limestone, all those centuries of footsteps pressed into the same narrow path. The incense has faded, the lanterns are still. Whatever you carried into these streets tonight, you can set it down. Let the old city hold it for you. It has held heavier things. Thank you for walking with us tonight. This has been Walk Me to Sleep by Bears with Apps. Rest well.
Tonight, fall asleep somewhere amazing. Visit walkmetosleep.com.